You know why I know that's true? You remember our friend Valentine, the cute Portuguese woman on the bus? She's so cute. Her Piero, she was still in love with Piero. The love she had for Piero was very much alive, and it's still very much alive. The love that you have for a loved one, even after their passing, is still very much alive. The love that I have for my grandmother is still very much alive. The love that I have for friends that have passed is still very much alive. Love does not end. Love does not end. It is that thread that holds together the universe. It holds us all together. However, what happens when someone we love transitions? It is a goodbye. Sometimes it's a goodbye that we can see coming and somehow prepare for it. And sometimes it's a surprise, and it's a horrible surprise. It's a horrible surprise that we wish we could turn back the clock and prepare for better. Somehow, though, we know that these surprises can happen. And these horrible surprises are even more likely than the ones we can prepare for. So, how do we live in that tension of preparing for death and still living fully? Preparing for death, preparing being the operative word, the one we don't actually put into practice. I think Eastern cultures generally do this better than the West. Death is just more naturally integrated into their cycle of life. And in the West, we think we're eternal in this body, and we're just not. And that leads to great deal more trauma sometimes, a great deal more baggage, layers that get stuck in us because we simply don't know how to let go because no one told us how to manage saying goodbye to someone we loved, that we weren't expecting to ever have to say goodbye to them. I remember when I was a kid, my mom had a hysterectomy when she was fairly young, and it went really wrong. That we tried to sue for malpractice and so forth. And it was the first time that my mom had to talk to my brother and I. It was the first time she was going for surgery, and a single mom raising two kids in a foreign country. I mean, she's the bravest and toughest woman I know. And she had to sit us down and say, in the case something happens to mom, these are the action steps. Death is inevitable, and we have to prepare for it. We have to prepare for it. Not preparing ourselves or our loved ones is neglect. It's neglect. It's going to happen. Whether we want to or not, it's going to happen. So why the hell do we not prepare people for it? And prepare ourselves for it? And since we know love is eternal, although my grandmother is not present anymore, she's more present than ever because there are things about her that are always with me. We incorporate the memory of our loved ones in however we want to, in the ways that we deem most appropriate. But we have to create space to do that. In your case, it might be a tradition. Maybe your father always took you out fishing once a year, and you decide, I'm going to keep my fishing trip to keep the memory of my father alive. It might be a jewelry or a piece of clothing or a picture, a photograph that helps you honor them, whatever it is, to keep their memory alive, because love is eternal. So there's an element of keeping their memories alive, of knowing that they're always with us and we will be with our loved ones. Even when we pass, our memories will remain. And what are we leaving behind? That legacy, that aroma that we're leaving behind. What is that? But there's also the logistics. There are logistics to death, and most of these we can prepare for. I am 40 years old and I have a will, and it's at the notary. It will be acted upon in the event of my death. I mean, if I'm 40 with no kids, if you're 35 and you have 3 kids, maybe it's time to get a will. These are things that we need to prepare for. These are things that we need to be conscious of. So maybe let's walk through some of these logistics. These are action items. These are action items. This will come. This will happen. So let's embrace the inevitable, because it's easier to embrace it now in our cool, calm, collected minds in which we're a little more distant from this than where it's right upon us or when we're surprised by it. Especially because when this is not managed well, especially in families with many, with a large patrimony or many offspring, many children to divide the patrimony with, you see this massive change in how people act. Siblings that were getting along prior to a father or a mother or a grandparent passing away, all of a sudden it's all bickering because we're interested in goods, which is a pity. Let's sort that out prior to leave our loved ones with the good. Remember, let's stay with the good. Let's make life light. Let's be a sneaker. And all of those things require preparation. All of those things, especially regarding death, require us to think ahead, to take some steps. So, logistics. We have to accept the inevitable, and the logistics around that might be, is there a burial? Is there cremation? Is it disease? If there's a disease, if it's a degenerative disease that will require additional care or extended care, what are the steps that need to be put into place or to be thought about? And in some of those cases, it requires additional funds. So you might need to start planning financially. In the event that I grow old, and not how I want to grow old, but in the least positive light, I might need to have this amount of income to sustain my extended care, because I don't want that to fall on my kids. Or I know that the social security system of my country will not be able to sustain that, or it will not provide me the quality that I want. Just think through there are many ways that this can happen. Do you want to just think through your logistics? Think through your logistics. And as you think through your logistics, it'll be easier for you to think through your logistics with your loved ones. Step 2, wills, insurance, and other paperwork. Have that stuff in order. Have it in order. Have your will drafted. You can draft it on your own. There are templates online. You can go to a lawyer. Have your will drafted. Make sure that your loved ones know where they can find these important documents. Insurance policies, if you're a parent, or even if you're not a parent, you might want to have an insurance policy so that in the event of death, either X amount of money goes to a charity or X amount of money goes to any living relatives that you might have. Think through these things. What do you want to leave behind? How do you want to leave it behind? 3, last wishes. Last wishes. Last wishes are tough, eh? But I think that work is valuable to do, because I don't want my siblings deciding what my funeral should look like, because I know what I want my funeral to look like. So what are my last wishes? In the event that I have a severe accident and I am incapacitated, I want them to pull the plug. Do I want my body donated to science or not? Do I want to be cremated or not? What are my last wishes? And be as specific as possible. And these documents, you need to update them every so often. And last, an ICE email. A nice email, in case of emergency. I sent these out anytime that I went on these random trips that could maybe be a little dangerous. And just in case I didn't come back, my friends and family would know what to do. Had the numbers of my bank accounts and had any properties or any things that were in my possession that would need to be managed before, some major passwords to give them access to other things to make it easy. It's an ICE email. It doesn't, and once you have that ICE email, you could start from 4 and work your way up to 1. The other steps might become maybe easier for you to manage. Remember, death is inevitable. I deeply miss those that are not with me anymore. I deeply miss them. Physically, I miss them. However, they're also more present than ever. Love does not end. We just have to prepare for it and find ways to feel connected with those that have passed in a matter that's according to you, to your values, to your preferences, and to who they were. See you tomorrow.